hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another great podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to go to thecvpn.com and subscribe to all of our 9 podcasts over there. You can also see us on youtube.com/Chris Voss and see the live version or the video version of this broadcast. You can also go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. You can go to facebook.com/the Chris Voss Show and LinkedIn, and also on Instagram /Chris Voss, the Chris Voss Show. There's plenty of groups over there on both those platforms, so LinkedIn and Facebook. You can follow there as well. And today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Restream. Restream Studio is a web-based live broadcasting solution. You can live stream a Zoom meeting or webinar to up to 30 plus social channels and platforms at the same time. We're actually using it to do our live broadcasting. You can get $10 credit towards their services using our affiliate link at restream.io/join/Chris Voss. So I was on LinkedIn about a month ago, and we've had a few inclusion officers on. And last year we talked about a lot of social justice stuff. We talked about a lot of different issues of Black Lives Matter and all the different things. There were several issues last year, if you were around, we needed to address, and we had brilliant authors on to talk to us about it. And I saw this great course that was on LinkedIn, and it was by a gal named Stacey A. Gordon. And she gave this course. It was brilliant and professionally done. I was really impressed, and I was like, I want to have her on the show to talk about inclusion and educating people on unconscious bias and different things like that. Turns out she has a forthcoming book coming out on March 30th, 2021 called UNBIAS, Addressing Unconscious Bias at Work. So I invited her to come on the show, and let me give you a rundown on who she is. She is the Chief Executive Officer of her team at reworkwork.com. She's a diversity, inclusion, and career strategist who works to reduce bias in recruiting and barriers to hiring. She's leading at the intersection of recruiting, career development, diversity, workplace culture. Stacey's delivered keynote speeches globally and developed educational content that has engaged professionals in both person and virtual environment. She focuses on reworking how companies work. This includes how they recruit, hire, and engage women and professionals of color. Welcome to the show, Stacey. How are you?
Thank you. I am wonderful, actually. I'm excited to be able to participate and talk to you today and reach the audience that need this information.
Yeah, the more we go. So give us your plugs so people can look you up on the interwebs and order your forthcoming book.
Yeah, it's really easy to find me, Stacey A. Gordon. If you Google, it pops up. But the website is reworkwork.com. And I always have to say reworkwork.com. We're not affiliated with WeWork.
That kind of broke my brain when I first saw that. I was like, rework?
Yes. It's reworkwork.com. And I'll tell you, the easy way to remember it is that we talk about reworking what doesn't work about work. So
there you go.
That's how that came up.
So what motivated you want to write your book on bias?
Really, the dumpster fire that was 2020.
Was there something bad that went on last year? Or there's a lot of things that went bad?
Exactly. There was a lot that happened in 2020. If you think back to, so the frustration, I'll say, is George Floyd got murdered, and it was like people suddenly woke up. And I thought, what was different? Why was this particular senseless killing different? Right? There have been many since. There were many before. And I don't know. I've thought long and hard about this. I've looked at what was going on, but I think some of it had to do with the fact that we are still, but at the time we're in the middle of a deep pandemic and people were stuck at home. And so there was a lot of focus. People couldn't just go about their day and ignore it like they normally did. So I think that might be part of it. In writing the book, it came up because so many people had questions. They wanted to know, what do we do? How do we do something? And people were jumping into doing things without really having an understanding of what they were doing, why they were doing it, And I really wanted to be able to help create some positive direction rather than having people make a bad situation worse with good intentions.
Yeah, it was a seminal moment before George Floyd. A lot of white people, especially in the last years of Obama, weren't really on board with Black Lives Matter. And there's so many, like you say, heinous things that have gone on at the hands of police. And yet that was the video that flipped the switch. And I think I can't remember who said it on my show, but it was one of the great authors that we had on, I believe, that or it was somebody I picked up off the news. But we basically saw a live lynching on TV. That's what we really saw. There's a lot of different things that we experience where someone gets shot or you don't see what's happening in a scrum of police officers. That thing was pretty blatant, and it was really hard to watch because it was, what was it, 6 to 8 minutes or 9 minutes of excruciating, someone begging for their life. It's not cool in any format. And I think you're right, because people were home and people had to watch it. They couldn't just tune it out in their day. The horror of it just was horrifying to watch a human being experiencing that. And maybe some of the stacks of all the white supremacy and racist things that we've dealt with under Trump for the last 5 years just finally reached that breaking point too. Maybe that was some of it.
Yeah, there definitely is just a lot of things that happened, but that's what made me just really want to put something in writing that would help, because the book is called Unbiased, and I totally get that. Can we totally become unbiased? No, but should we be striving towards that? Hell yeah. And so that's the thought process behind it, is that we want to get to a place in what I like to call unconscious inclusion. We're always talking about unconscious bias, but I want us to get to a place of unconscious inclusion, to where including others is done as easily as breathing, where we don't have to put in the effort. We don't have to stop ourselves from making bad decisions, and we are just automatically making good ones. So I'm like, if we can automatically make bad ones, we can automatically make good ones. We just have to change our behavior.
Nice. And it's really important too. Like I actually had done early on a kind of an unconscious bias test when Donald Trump was first elected, and I started reading about white nationalists, and all my friends were getting attacked. My LGBTQ friends, my friends from other communities of race were getting attacked. I had one of my friends from Yemen, or not Yemen, but one of my friends who was not Kuwaiti, but was she Kuwait? What's the place that we saved during the first Bush administration? It was Kuwait, wasn't it?
I think so.
We saved them from being invaded by Iraq. I'm aging myself right now.
I know. And I was like, and then politics and geography.
So she was attacked and called the N-word, even though she was from a country that we saved from the Iraqi dictator, and thrown out of a Uber cab by a Palestinian, which just, you try and square the thing. You're just like, what? But I guess he really liked Trump. So I had to sit down, and I did a thing that I did. And I said, you know what, looking at all the codes that were coming out, culture, white nationalists, all the understanding what the rebranding white nationalism is with KKK. And so I did a thing where I would go to the store, or anytime I left my home, I would start looking at faces and listening to what my decision-making would be in assuming about those faces. And it's interesting because we all do that, because from a sort of caveman aspect, we had to look at things back in the day where, like, fight or flight, is it going to kill me, or are we going to be friends? Especially when it came to T-Rexes last time. I've seen that one movie a few times in its versions. So Jurassic Park. So I did that, and it was really interesting, the conversation that I was having, because I would be like, okay, so that fish, you made this choice, you made this assumption of what that person is, or their danger to you, or what you perceive as their danger to you. Why are you making that choice? And is that choice accurate? And I started reflecting on that. And I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. I was testing my unconscious bias and trying to see what was going on. So you've written this book. It'll be out March 30th. And give us some of the details about the book. What's the general overview of it?
Yeah, the general overview is looking at, where do we need to start? When everything happened, everyone wanted to do something, which is a great and noble place to start. We want to get into action. We want to do something right away.